a $750 million spending spree, injuries, clutchness, the likes we've never seen before, 11-0 on the road in the postseason. And just last night, had the team had no hits through 6 innings. Then why not win a World Series? The Rangers are champions for the first time ever, Bill Plaschke. Great team or great run?
Great team. And the thing that struck about this team was this resilience. They blew the division on the last day of the season. They came out and they swept the Rays and the Orioles. They were down 3-2 to the Astros. They beat them two times in Houston, the defending champions, to advance. They're down to their last 2 outs in the first game against the in the World Series against the Diamondbacks. Seager hits a home run. They win that game. And then last night they become the first team in baseball history to win a World Series game after having no hits or no runs after 6 innings. Nobody's done it before. Their resilience is awesome.
All right, guys, Solo, what impressed you most with these champion Rangers?
Yeah, so what Bill is trying to say, it's a great run. Great teams don't always lose 8 straight in August. They don't always lose 6 of their first 7 in September. This team, Bill, you were right about one thing. They're absolutely resilient to win the way they did on the road. And remember, we all kind of root for these analytic teams and a little engine that could, like Tampa and sometimes Oakland. But Texas did it the old-fashioned way, the Dodger way, the Yankee way, the Red Sox way. They went out and spent a ton of money, and they had guys deliver, including Nathan Eovaldi, 5 wins in the postseason. That's pretty darn good.
Justin Tinsley, what impressed you most with this Rangers team?
Yeah, I agree with Frank. I think it's a great run, and I think that's going to endear them in history even more. If they had a losing road record during the regular season, we mentioned the losing streaks in August and September. We mentioned blowing the division the last week of the regular season, then to turn around and go 11-0 on the road in the postseason, when no Major League Baseball team in history in a single postseason has had more than 8 runs. Take all that into consideration. This is one of the truly great World Series runs, mainly because they weren't necessarily a great team throughout the regular season.
NJ Adanda, you're hearing a debate here, great team versus great run. You can answer that, or what impressed you most?
How about a great run by a great-ish team? You know, these
now you're straddling a fence here, my friend.
No, ish.
But what they did, and I think the postseason was reflective of the resilience of this team, for example. Like they lost DeGrom to Tommy John surgery during the regular season, just like you lose Scherzer, you lose Garcia, you're undeterred. I think we're a little too focused on the fact that their bad stretch was at the end of the season, so they didn't go in to the postseason hot like we've seen teams get hot and carry it all the way through the playoffs. But I think the playoffs are now long enough that they can be reflective of the type of team that you see over the 162 games. And that's what this team was.
To Frank's point, it wasn't just about spending money, though. There was a youth movement that timed out perfectly. Sometimes those things don't time out. We saw that with the All-Stars, Young this year, and Heim behind the plate. And also, it was Corey Seager. World Series MVP with 2 different franchises. Anybody know the other guy in Major League Baseball history to accomplish that?
Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Frank had it first. Bruce Bochy, one of 5 managers with a ring with multiple franchises. And the Rangers, well, the odds just came out for next year. They only have the 4th best odds to repeat. There's 3 teams ahead of them. We haven't seen a repeat in quite some time. So, Jay, let me ask you a bunch of questions here. Is Seager Reggie? Is Bochy Torrey? Are the Rangers the 4th best team going into next year?
Well, I don't think you can look at the odds as disrespectful to them, but more of a nod to modern history, right? No team has won back-to-back World Series in the 21st century, going back to the Yankee three-peat at the end of the last century. So the question is, maybe can Bochy be Bochy, right? Can they win like 3 out of 5 like they did when Bochy was with the Giants? Or can they go to the World Series 4 times in 6 years and win a couple like the Astros did? I think that's more realistic than winning back-to-back.
Seager's back, Simeon's back, the core of the team's back. Evan Carter plays a full season. Plus, they add Jacob deGrom. Are you kidding me? They should be favored to win the World Series next year. They're all coming back.
Bill, I need to stop the show for a second because we did something last year. It was during something completely different. It was during the shift and how the shift was being banned. And you said out of nowhere, Corey Seager was going to benefit the most out of all the players in baseball with the banning of the shift. He would hit 100 points better. It's what you said. And he did exactly that.
I was on that show.
One of the great calls of all time for Bill Plaschke.
I wish the Dodgers had known that.
For the world. No, I mean, don't make it about the Dodgers, please. But World Series.
Leaving
MVP
Bill
with
was the
multiple
best thing that happened
franchises,
to him.
Just
He
like
did.
Reggie.
I
He's
was
the
on
new
that
Mr.
show.
October. Unbelievable. We move on. Thursday night football. Let's go. Titans at Steelers tonight. It's Will Levis versus Kenny Pickett. Week 9 is going to have matchups of quarterbacks that we've never imagined before. Will Levis, second career start, his first tied the NFL record when he threw for 4 touchdowns. So, Frank, which QB would you rather have tonight?
I'd rather be Kenny Pickett because I'm the Steelers. I am not going to lose 2 home games in the span of 5 days. Remember something about Will Levis, a rookie. Prior to this season, rookie quarterbacks were 4-24 against Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. C.J. Stroud did win a game this year. Will Levis, great story, but watch out tonight.
Justin Tinsley, which quarterback would you rather have tonight?
I'm going Levis just based off momentum. He had more pass touchdowns last week than the Titans had going into Week 8 last week. So, but if there are concerns about Levis, we know he can throw it deep. But what about the underneath routes? What about the check down routes? But knowing all that one game of Will Levis's career, you can argue it's been better than Kenny Pickett's career thus far. So I'm sticking with momentum.
J.A., we previewed a lot of games in our 21 years here and Around the Horn, and here it is, as conventional as it gets. Which QB would you rather have tonight?
Will Levis, in part because the defensive coordinators don't have enough film on him to really develop a book. And Frank, home doesn't matter that much to the Steelers, who are 500 in their last 6 games at home. And typically, home teams on Thursday nights are around 500. So I don't think being in Pittsburgh matters that much.
So you just made the argument that since there's no tape on a rookie quarterback, every rookie quarterback has an enormous advantage? Is that what I just heard? Okay. Bill Plaschke, how about you?
It helps if you can play.
I'm going with Levis. The Steelers are missing Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. Lawrence burned him for 4 out of 5 passes completions for 20 yards or more downfield. Levis threw 3 touchdown passes deep last week. He'll throw some tonight. I'm taking Levis.
So that means you'd rather have Levis tonight. You're picking the Titans? You'd rather beat Tennessee tonight? Yeah? Jay Adonde?
Yes.
Titans.
Tinsley?
Titans.
Isola?
Yeah, well, since Bill and one of his proteges, Jay, are picking Tennessee, I'm picking Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not losing 2 home games in 5 days, boys. Not happening.
I'm Jay's
Well,
protege.
LA Times.
Justin's one of your proteges,
LA
Frank. After that great weekend you had in Toronto covering the NBA
Come
All-Star
on,
game.
man.
He was going the other way.
That 2016,
All right.
we always got that.
Let's move on. Oh, Plaschke, this one's got your name written all over it. NBA last night, Lakers 130, Clippers 125. It was in overtime. Hey, Bill, how are LeBron's minutes restrictions going so far?
Terrible.
You said it was going to be a good thing. They're blowing past it. Clippers, as you know, without James Harden as he ramps up. But look at the quotes coming out of their locker room before or after the game as well. Post-game optimism that this will work out. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, no, they can work with James Harden. Bill, do you believe that?
You should have put Bill Plaschke's column quote up there. Right player, right time. This will work out. This is perfect. I don't think he'll work anyplace else, but he's in an expiring contract. He's coming home. He has one good chance to win in his career. Kawhi and PG love having to play well with him. He'll get used to Westbrook. They'll figure it out. This is gonna. It has the makings of a potential championship team here.
Jay Adonde, are you as optimistic that this will work out for the Clippers? I don't know if that sentence has been ever actually said and it came true as Bill is.
I've had optimism for the Clippers in the past, drafting.
But has it worked out?
Right now, how's that worked out? Not so well. And I think this will work reasonably well. I don't see them winning the championship this year, but they position themselves to have a better run on it. You can see last night there were times, maybe Paul George was in foul trouble or something, where they could have used another big gun out there. And this will allow them another shot at having the best player on the court at any given time. Is Harden MVP anymore? No, but can he be the best player in a game at times? Yes, he can still do that, in addition to Kawhi, Paul George.
Is that how you see it, Frank Isola?
Bill Plaschke says right place, right time. What about Game 6 against Boston last year? Last 5 minutes. Is that
Here
the
we
right
go.
place, right
Watch
time?
Frank cook
Didn't do
here.
anything. What did he do? What did he do in Game 7 against
let's get to
Boston?
Game 6.
So, Bill, you have a ball dominant
Let's get
guard.
to Game 7.
Here's
Let's
the
get
thing.
there first.
What's he going to – well, you think they're going to get there. Well, how's he going to play off the ball with Kawhi Leonard? And guess what? All those quotes, let's quote the doctor and the team physio. Will all those guys be healthy? Because health is the biggest issue with the Clippers, starting with their best player, Kawhi Leonard.
Justin Tinsley.
Sour grapes, Frank.
I think I think Westbrook's quote was the most accurate. I think it will work, but it's going to take time because everyone in that organization knows with this free agency looming, with a new stadium on the horizon, this season is of vital importance. And I think James Harden knows that. But my big concern, honestly, is how Harden is going to mesh with Westbrook. Westbrook has been in charge of energy since he's gotten there, but we saw him playing off the ball with the Lakers last year and how that worked out. So that is my main concern, but I don't have an answer for it until I see it.
Last word after the horn.
Frank, you're just mad he left Brooklyn. He come to L.A. He's in the land of sunshine, land of happiness, the land of victory.
He actually left
Go to the
Philly.
NBA championship.
He left a few. Let's not leave the Houston.
Get him out of the game in the fourth quarter, Bill. Get him
Although,
out.
the
Don't let him
series
go
you
for game
brought up,
7.
Frank, he didn't show up in the late games. He won 2 games by himself earlier in the series, and that's even. That he didn't show up, or else as the MVP of the league, maybe he could have done some heavy lifting later in
You're
that.
right.
We're taking a break.
That's true.
Bill Plaschke, you've covered Bobby Knight. Jay Adande, you've covered Bobby Knight, both in college and as a pro. Frank, you've interviewed Bobby Knight before. We'll remember the life of Coach Bobby Knight next. Now we remember Bob Knight. The tributes and memorials still pouring in as full and celebrated and complicated as the man. Very much the story of college basketball. His success, the summit of the sport, the undefeated season of 1976, the top of the top. His faults and transgressions, quite the opposite. A force of nature, the likes of which we'll never see again. Jay Adande, how will you remember the man and coach, Bob Knight?
With some sadness that it couldn't have been simpler for him. The obituary should simply read Bob Knight, one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, and yet they all contain references to some of the problematic behavior, and I wonder why he had to do it, because it was all brought on himself. It was self-destructive, and as Frank DeFord, the writer of the great profile of him, the Rabbit Hunter, said in the middle of the story, why? Why, Bobby, why? And you keep asking those questions. Part of it was, I think, intentional to deflect attention away from his players, particularly when they were good. He was at his worst often when his teams were at his best. The infamous bullwhip that he brought into a press conference and practice, that team was a Final Four team in 1992, and he knew how good they were. He wanted to avoid discussion of that. I will say that, the people inside his circle, they loved him, and they talked about how caring he was and generous he was. Lawrence Frank is a great testament to that. A manager on his team, now the president of the Clippers, and I'm glad that he got that moment at the end where he got to go back to Indiana. I think he was entitled, and the Indiana fans were entitled to that moment.
Bill Plaschke.
He was one of the greatest coaches ever. He was also one of the worst examples of a coach ever. He revolutionized basketball. He also forever damaged basketball. All of his good deeds were nullified, or at least equaled, by the bad deeds he did. He normalized, for that period of time, he normalized coaches abusing players, like when he choked Neil Reed, or he kicked his son. He normalized coaches bullying referees. He normalized coaches strong-arming the media. He normalized coaches treating others with terrible respect. I suggest anyone read Season on the Brink, and it's a horrifying tale of how he coached Indiana basketball. So a lot of great things he did, but he normalized a lot of things that we see in youth coaches to even today.
Would you say, though, Bill, he paid the price for that?
Yes, well, and that's the people have to remember. All this love fest in Indiana. Indiana fired him because he put his hands on a college student. Think about that.
Frank Isola, I'll bring you in here. You can understand how Bill sees it there. You have interviewed Bob Knight before as well. How will you recall him?
Yeah. And I went back and read Harvey Araden's column in the New York Times from 2012. This was after Neil Reed had died. And by the way, after the choking incident, Bobby Knight got a zero tolerance policy. So he didn't get fired right away from that. That ultimately led to him being ousted as the head coach at Indiana. His story is complicated. He was a volatile guy. There's no doubt about it. He can be a bully at times, but there was also the other side of Bobby Knight. This legendary coach, remember, started at Army as a 24-year-old. Coaching Mike Krzyzewski. On his staff was Bill Parcells. Those are giants in the coaching industry. And I remember hearing a story from Isaiah Thomas when I sat down and interviewed him once about Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight went to Chicago to recruit Isaiah Thomas. During that visit, one of Isaiah's brothers said to Bobby Knight, "What are you going to do for me? I need money if my brother's going to go there." Bobby Knight almost got into a fight with Isaiah Thomas's brother, but Isaiah Thomas's mother said, first of all, you get out. Bobby Knight, you stay because I want my son to go play for you. And Bobby Knight and Isaiah Thomas, that's the greatest player ever coached. Kind of similar in a lot of ways. Very competitive guys, very passionate about their jobs.
Justin, you and I are from a slightly different generation, so the successes of the 3 championships and the undefeated season, that was more in the past when we came to know Bob Knight and what you've read about Bob Knight as well and reading the testimonials today. Your thoughts on the coach and the man?
To me, the main word that defines his legacy, and he's not the first nor last person to have this, is the word but. He is an iconic coach of iconic coaches. The motion offense, the graduation rates, the coaching tree, the 902 wins. You don't just get those by accident. He is an iconic coach, but there's also a flip side. There are people and their experiences that speak to the other part of his character. I think about the allegations of racism and workplace misconduct. I think about Hispanic organizations protesting on Capitol Hill in 1984 to get him removed from the Olympic head coach position. I think about some really vile comments towards Connie Chung. And we talk about the choking incident. To me, the biggest benefit for him is timing because, I think about where society was when a lot of this happened. The conversations that were being had didn't have the impacts on careers that we see now. So much like somebody like Jim Brown, there are multiple ways to discuss the life and legacy of this man, but you have to discuss all of them if you want to do a true testament to who Bobby Knight was as a person and as a man.
And Jay, I hear what you're saying with the why was Knight the way he was. You could ask that of all of us, right? Something struck me in his last public appearance, though. Everything you guys just said about the good and the bad, it appears Bob Knight was a person who could hold a grudge. Our younger viewers may not remember this, but take a look at this video.
When my time on earth is gone and my activities here are past, I want they bury me upside down and my critics can kiss my
It's an unbelievable line. But I'd like to focus on what happens after. Knight refused to go back to Indiana for 2 decades after he was fired. When he did go back in 2020, maybe the vinegar is still there, but so the years and the tears. And I know everyone's opinion may be different, but don't you see a person who is happy to be back home? So I ask you to consider what it means for all of us to open ourselves up and release grudges and return home. It's a lesson maybe Bob Knight learned late, but reflected in one of his most famous quotes. Your biggest opponent isn't the other guy, it's human nature. Bill Plaschke, J.A. Adon, they just throw the record books out in Showdown. The last
Old school.
2 undefeated teams in the NBA, the Celtics and the Mavericks. Boston beating Indy by 51 last night. And Dallas getting by Chicago. They're now ready for a game with the Nuggets tomorrow. Denver fell from the ranks of unbeaten with a loss in Minnesota. Power rank me, Bill Plaschke. Who's been the most impressive #1 team so far?
I'm an LA guy, and I'm going to say Boston. Are you crazy? No way. The Nuggets.
Okay.
Nuggets
All
are still
right.
the best
What
until
was that for?
dethroned.
An LA guy made your answer. The first words out of your mouth was, I'm an LA guy. Go ahead, Adade.
Bill, I'm an LA native, but I still got to give it up to the Celtics. They're plus 20 in scoring differential, and they're setting records for best or second best start in history, not just a franchise, that franchise.
Plus 20 in margin of victory. Unbelievable. We'll move on. NBA City Connect jerseys. I believe you have seen them. It's been a slow reveal. Now we're doing a fast reveal because it's been a full reveal. We got them all. We'll leave them up here. Jay, tell us the winner. Pick a loser.
The winner, look in that lower right corner, Utah Jazz, iconic, back like the 90s days. The losers, that Nets, what are we doing with that? Come on.
Winners the Lakers, loser the Celtics, as usual.
Okay. I appreciate
Basic. The Lakers is so
the
basic.
brand that you're building for yourself here, Plaschke. But it's not getting you the FaceTime. J.A. Adande.
as bad as the new City jerseys look overall, I can appreciate the efforts made to try to explain them. You should see some of these press releases. The Lakers purple fading to black to represent the sunset, the end of the day. New Orleans captures the mystique of the Crescent City. Come on, just say that they're jerseys and you like the colors. I will say, the Rip City plaid representing Dr. Jack Ramsey's jackets, that is a nice touch.
Yeah, Donnie, thank you. For today, gentlemen, we're on a 23.5 hour break.
How'd I get -12?
See you guys tomorrow.
I wasn't on the air that long.
Fitting.